All right. Well, I think I'm live anyways. I pressed go live, which if you were around for the last show, you'll know that I was 5 minutes late because I talked for 5 minutes before I noticed the go live button over on the side. It's too bad too because I revealed all the mysteries of the universe in those 5 minutes. It didn't feel like doing it again. Yeah, so I mean, this is my point where I just chatter. There we go, and then until I see my moderator tell me I'm actually live, because I have no trust whatsoever in technology. All right, so welcome to Live in the Den on what is actually a very, very beautiful Sunday morning in Las Vegas. We have, for probably the last week, maybe more than a week, been topping out at like over 110 degrees most days, which means like you get up in the morning and it's already about 90 outside. We're not to that point. I mean, 110, 111, 112 sucks. We're not at 120 yet. When you get to 120, in the middle of the night, at midnight, it's pitch black outside. It will still be like 100 degrees or more outside. It's bizarre because you walk out and it feels like there should be a sun up in the sky beating down on you to feel that warm. But there's nothing. It's so we're not there yet. But the 110s, okay, so now, I guess for maybe the next couple days, we're going to be more topping out in the 90s. So it was like 70 degrees outside this morning. It was nice. I went out, hung out with the dog for a little bit, read some Peanuts strips. You're a brave man, Charlie Brown. There's some really good stuff in here too. In fact, the first one, you get Lucy asking Santa Claus to just bring her money, preferably 10s and 20s, which, if you know your Charlie Brown Christmas special, I want to say they give that line to Sally in that one. But yeah, if you read the old comics, you'll see a lot of the bits in the comics that show up later on in the specials. All right, so what's been going on? Work still crazy. I'm still doing that database transfer. I mean, it's kind of done, but there's still little bits, and we got quarterly reports coming up. I know it's my real job, but it can be boring, but still it pays the bills. Oh yeah, Jaws 50th anniversary was yesterday. Such an awesome movie. I thought it was a good opportunity to tell an old family story, an old family legend. Because you have that, right? In families, you got stories that get passed down. And this was one we've been talking about, and I was probably 5 or 6 years old when it happened. So it was like a movie of the week kind of deal. Jaws is on. I'm in bed at that point, right? I bet it was like a Sunday night movie. I bet that's what it was. So I got school in the morning, etc. And, oh yeah, this is my wife telling me that I'm right. Of course. Is there any doubt? So anyway, my dad's out there watching Jaws. So he gets himself a bowl of cereal while he's watching this thing. He sits down in the recliner. He's got his cereal. And one of those moments happens where it's like a jump scare with the shark. And he does one of these. And it's like the cereal just like explodes out of the bowl. Covers him with cereal and milk. Which my mother thought was hilarious. I don't think he thought it was funny. But she thought it was funny enough that she had to make sure she told me and my sister about it the next morning. And so we have been tormenting my father for probably 40 years now with the Jaws cereal incident. That's what comes to my mind when I think of Jaws being 50 years old. But at any rate, great movie. If you've never actually watched Jaws, go watch Jaws. I'm pretty sure it is still the top grossing horror film. And I know some people say, is it really horror? I mean, it's got jump scares, it's got blood, it's got gore. It's, you know, if it's not horror, I don't know what it is. Exactly. I don't know if you'd call it a drama, but I think it's still the top grossing horror film of all time. I think if you adjust for inflation, it made something like $3 billion. Think about that. Now, everybody says, well, it's $1 billion movie nowadays. And you're kind of going, if it's a big budget thing, it should be $1 billion movie. If it's making less than $1 billion, it's kind of a failure. I mean, like I said, I think Return of the Jedi did about $2 billion. You know, that was pretty standard for big budget at the time. Again, adjusting for inflation. And that doesn't even adjust for population, which we kind of forget about. But there are a lot fewer people in our domestic box office back in the 70s and 80s than there are now. So if you adjust it for population, you know, maybe Jaws is actually more like a $3.5 billion film. You know, Jedi maybe $2.5 billion. So, but not only that, Jaws, we forget about this now. Although now the movie business is kind of in flux and kind of weird, but for a long time, summer blockbuster. That's the thing, right? Summer blockbusters. When Jaws came out, summer was when you dumped the crap movies that nobody was going to watch because it was summer. So people are out like enjoying the great outdoors. Now, of course, that's for most of the country that has longer winters. For Vegas, summer is actually when you do a lot of stuff indoors. Summer in Vegas is almost like winter for Minnesota. I mean, you get out, but like when it's 120, like you're just not getting out that much. It's actually kind of dangerous to be outside for long periods of time. So for Vegas, when you get to, our summer lasts about usually till mid-October. You know, we start to, I mean, it gets a little better by the time you're in October, but it's still pretty hot outside. But sort of that October period when you're getting towards Halloween, it's almost like a second spring in Vegas. Because it gets cool enough that you can go outside, enjoy yourself. You're not dying. Open the windows up, let some fresh air in, because you're not letting 120 degree temperatures in and destroying your air conditioning unit and all that kind of stuff. So, Jaws comes along and essentially invents the summer blockbuster. And I think the follow-up, which I want to say was, 2 years later, Star Wars kind of cements it. And all of a sudden, people will go to cool big budget movies in the summertime. It's like Hollywood is always the last to know. It took Hollywood forever to figure out, wait, we could sell our movies at like a $20 price point on VHS or a DVD and people will buy them? Wow, that's insane. You know, it's like, yeah, I don't know. The average 10-year-old could have probably figured that out, but Hollywood, not so much. So if you're looking at Hollywood's nonsense today, thinking, what the hell is going on with these people? This is Hollywood for a long time. I think basically it's because Hollywood eventually went corporate. And this is corporations. When corporations actually come up with a good idea, it's kind of amazing. Most of the good ideas come from smaller companies that are hustling, that still have some kind of private control. And if you think about Hollywood, 40s and 50s, it was still kind of the movie moguls that were in charge of their studio, you know, and were making those decisions. And they seem to have done a somewhat better job with it. Corporations get involved. Remember, like Paramount was once a Gulf Western company. So it was owned by an oil company. Once that happens, it gets a lot shakier in terms of what Hollywood is doing, which actually, this is a story that I saw this week. So they got the Evita musical going in London, with Rachel Zegler in the lead role, which obviously she's polarizing from a political standpoint, but this isn't a political thing. So they got the thing going, and audiences are kind of pissed because the way they've staged it is that when she's doing her big "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina" song, right? Instead of doing that on the stage, she walks out onto a balcony outside the theater, overlooking, like, I guess, the street, and sings it there. And the people in the theater who paid for the tickets are watching it on a big video monitor. And the people are kind of like, that's not really what I paid for. Okay, so that's kind of dumb. I mean, I get they're trying to be clever, do something, a gimmick, right? Which, if you got to use gimmicks a pretty big musical, Evita, I mean, I don't do Broadway crap, and I know what Evita is. I usually call it Velveeta, but still. So, I mean, if you need a gimmick to sell that, you already probably got some problems, especially in London, which is like a big theater town. But what I'm thinking is, you're putting your actress out in public singing this song. And this is the age of internet pranks, the age of trolls. I'm thinking about, like, isn't there that story where, like, Shia LaBeouf tried to put some flag up that was supposed to represent unity? I think it really represented the opposite, and internet trolls kept, like, stealing the flag and replacing it, I think, with one with that, is it Peppy the Frog or something? I'm an old guy, so this means relatively little to me. But, and he kept, like, moving it to more secure locations, and the internet kept finding the damn thing and screwing with him, right? Because it became a game to all these people who have nothing better to do. I think the last one, it was like a flagpole out in the middle of nowhere. And by looking at the surroundings, looking at what time, like, the sun rose and set, they figured out partially where it was. And then by looking at an airplane that was passing overhead at one point, they were able to figure out exactly where the flagpole was. And, like, somebody went out there and stole the flag and replaced it. So they'll go to those links just to do something funny online. You got somebody who's polarizing, is walking outside to sing this song. You're not going to get somebody out there, like, yelling something, blasting an air horn. I don't know. Hopefully not doing anything destructive or harmful, right? I mean, hopefully just a smart ass move. But, like, really, in 2025, and I got to assume the people staging all this are not boomers or Gen X. They got to be, like, millennials, maybe Zoomers. She's like a Zoomer, right? They don't know how the internet works. Somebody doesn't go, hold on a second, I'm going to go out in public where there's, like, you know, a big chunk of the population thinks I'm a jerk or just likes to do screwed up things to people. It's like we're living in the age of bad ideas. Speaking of which, this kind of blew my mind. This is another thing that popped up in front of me this week. If you pay attention to, like, Disneyland type stuff, or, well, in this case, Disney World, they got this big plan where they're going to drain the rivers of America and turn it into a Cars attraction. Okay. Which right off the bat is just like, what? I fail to see the genius in this. By the way, they are also clearing a massive amount of just wilderness for new parking. And people are going, you have all this empty space. If you want to do a new Cars thing, this piston peak with, like, a canyon or something, you got room to do it. You don't have to take anything else out to do all that. But their attitude is, well, the rivers of nobody even does anything on the rivers of America. Nobody goes to Tom Sawyer Island anymore. It's dead space. It's not doing us any good. Okay. But somebody pointed out, previous to this, they have closed down the Admiral Joe Fowler riverboat, the rafts to Tom Sawyer Island, the Davy Crockett Explorer canoes, Liberty Bell riverboat, and the Mike Fink keel boats. They've closed the attractions. Maybe that's why nobody is doing any of the attractions at River of America, because you closed them all down. And by the way, these things, I mean, there's only one riverboat. I can't remember what it's called at Disneyland, but I mean, at least the last time I went, and I will admit it was a long time ago, but I haven't heard anybody mention this before, that they've closed these things down at Disneyland so people still do things around Rivers of America. Maybe if you hadn't closed everything, it's insane. It's insane. The stuff that goes on a corporate level, not just here, everywhere, I'm sure. Just the quality of decision making. But I got to be honest with you, it's not new. I know they've now tried to spin this differently, but New Coke, oh, that was ingenious. Oh, no. Because then everybody loved old Coke again. No, it didn't work because everybody already loved old Coke. You didn't need to do anything. I don't think that was some 3D chess move. I think it was just stupid. So corporations have been capable of making really bad decisions for a really long time. Maybe we just see it more now because, like, I don't know, maybe in the old days, it had to be a monumentally bad decision to make it onto the nightly news. Maybe smaller bad decisions would make it into the Wall Street Journal. But now everything's online all the time. We're all paying attention all the time. So maybe it's just like, it seems like the ideas are worse now because they're projected more. But anyways. Oh, by the way, this I wanted to show off. I was just reading this before I got on stream. Because I just sort of like chilling out, waiting for things to begin. So I'm reading, let me take this one down. So I'm reading Firestorm. I'll put it over here so it blocks some of that light. Firestorm, the Nuclear Man. This is part 2 of a story where this guy had been taking these pills, a designer drug, a wrestler, to get bigger, and he becomes a monster. Pretty standard fare for comic books. But in the middle of it, you got this mask insert. So you got a little bit of comic book. And they had a mask insert in one other one, too, that was more like on newsprint. But then you got a bunch of mask merchandise, including like underoos, shoes, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, in the old days, we wore IPs on our underwear. Dude, check out the big wheel. Pretty rad. There's Ben Cooper costume down there. It's like a lunchbox with, oh, there's also like a TV tray. I mean, you can get like dishware. And then, of course, the bedspread, the whole 9 yards, right? And there's it's a sweepstakes. Maybe that's all the crap you're winning. Oh, the game looks kind of rad. I need to check that. So, at any rate, though, but I thought that was kind of cool. There's the mask vehicles and stuff, right? But I did want to bring up again, because I think I'd mentioned this. There's a company putting out new mask figures. And so there's the bad dude, right? And I was bringing up how much he looks like that one dude from Office Space. So let's see if we can. There we go. Come on. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that guy was the perfect man to play whatever the hell his name is. General, was it like Malice or something? On a live action mask. It's probably too late now. It's probably too old for the role. Well, maybe not. The dude has gray hair, but I'm telling you, that's the guy right there that's taking down Mask. All right, what other bits of news do we have? They could be twins, exactly. Have you noticed though? You've never seen that actor and the leader of Venom together, same place, same time. There's some explaining to do. All right, now for a scary picture. I saw this. This is like, Phantom of the Paradise. It's a cult film for sure. 1974, Brian De Palma flick, which I've never watched, and I really should watch it. And I know I really should watch it. You got Paul Williams in it, who's playing the character named Swan, who's like this manipulator. And you got a dude who's like, kind of a maker of music who's being manipulated. And then you got this dude is played by Garrett Graham, who was great in used cars. Well, and a lot of stuff, playing Beef. Okay, anyways. So apparently this is reported exclusively at Movie Maker, which, by the way, one of the worst websites I've ever been to in my life. It almost crashed my computer. I don't know what was going on with that site. It was weird. But Paul Williams is apparently working on a stage musical version of the Phantom of the Paradise. Speaking of Broadway and musical theater, because look, Dad's Den of Pop Culture try to cover everything as long as it's weird or geeky or nobody cares about it. That's kind of my niche. So there you go. Phantom of the Paradise is going to be turned into a stage play. Like Homer Simpson, I love legitimate theater. Another cool thing, Hit Squad. Hit Squad, this is reported by Variety. I like to give my sources for things. My source actually is the person who posted it on Twitter, which in this case is a Twitter account called Katsuka, which does like animation, a lot of like, Asian anime type stuff, but really any animation that they just seem to produce more of it lately. But so it's an adult puppet show, really marionette show is what you should say, based on the work of Jerry Anderson, being developed by Warner Brothers, Hanna-Barbera Europe, and Anderson Entertainment. It was originally developed in 1983. So I'm trying to, now Anderson's like last show that they did like this, and I don't know if that was just puppets or marionettes, but it was Terrahawks, which I've only seen a little bit of. It wasn't really my cup of tea, because just the movement was kind of odd. But at any rate, so I don't know if this was being developed before or after Terrahawks, and it just didn't happen. But so Hit Squad, there's a couple images from like the design that goes into it. I don't know what it's going to be, but I love Jerry Anderson stuff, and so I'm definitely going to give it a look when it shows up. So Hit Squad. Yeah, Hit Squad. So look for that. I mean, I don't know if it'll end up being made or not. It's being developed, so that doesn't necessarily mean it'll become a reality, but might be worth checking out. Also, they posted a look at He-Man from the new Masters of the Universe movie that's coming out about a year from now. I think it's like June 2026. So, I mean, the sword looks pretty right. The costume looks pretty right. Looks like he's got the hair going there. The sort of Prince Valiant haircut. So who knows? But one thing we do know is the ability of these people to screw things up is seemingly limitless. So here's something I wanted to bring up too that I saw on Twitter. I thought was kind of amazing. And there's almost part of me going, all right, this isn't fake, right? This really is a strip, right? I think it's a strip. If this is a hoax, you can let me know in the chat. I don't know if anybody's been watching this, but sometimes people do, sometimes they don't, sometimes they chat, sometimes they don't. At any rate, I'm still starting out, so it's cool. But so I follow on Twitter an account that posts old Peanuts strips. So this is one that came up. I was like, what the hell? Our baseball rolled down the sewer. Charlie Brown is down there now trying to find it. Did you find the ball, Charlie Brown? Or aren't you Charlie Brown? I'm like going, wait a minute. Did Charles Schultz inspire Stephen King's It? Like, that's really kind of amazing. People forget. I mean, at a certain point, Peanuts became just like, it was everywhere, right? And I mean, Hallmark and ornaments and stuffed animals and stuff. And people start to go, they start to get an attitude that it's very mainstream safe, right? And they forget that Peanuts always had a little bit of an edge to it, especially in the 50s and 60s still. It was very much commenting on the BS of the day. Like, again, I'm reading through these strips, 1962, 63, that's right around when they're from. And there's a lot of it that's like, it's kind of a commentary on traditions changing and just modern times and modern attitudes. Like there's this one with Sally and Charlie Brown talking. This is about Santa Claus. This is still some Christmas stuff. He'll be landing on top of the roof, you say, with an overloaded sled and 8 reindeer? Boy, I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to wish he had a longer landing strip. And you're going, okay, it's kind of funny. But what it is really like, it's these kids questioning this received wisdom about Santa Claus, which, of course, little kids don't really do. But grown-up kids do. That's when you're getting into your teenage and 20s years, like where you're kind of like laughing about all the stuff that, you know, you grew up with. You know, I mean, think about Gen X in the 90s is where you're getting like Clerks talking about the Death Star, you know, and how many people were killed on the Death Star. And the one guy, I'm a contractor. Now, I'm telling you, if you go to work, you know, I knew a guy who went to work for a mob boss and he got killed as a result. And he knew what he was getting into. So if you're a contractor working, okay, all of that is like us as adults looking at something beloved from our childhood and kind of seeing it through adult eyes, but not necessarily like rejecting it outright, but just going, yeah, it is kind of silly, you know. There was a lot of that stuff in the Peanuts. It was a really insightful, really smart comic strip. And it retained that for a lot longer, I think, than some people might think. But anyhow, yeah, that comic strip was kind of crazy. By the way, our drinking ware today, Pepe Le Pew. This is a glass that's been in my family as long as I can remember. And I am just noticing now, though, that it's sort of like if you put it on a flat surface, it kind of moves a little bit. So it's got like a little flaw on the bottom. I don't know. It's not perfectly level. Just makes it more special. All right, let's look at some of the new stuff that's coming out here that I came across. For all of you card collectors out there, Phantom Collector Cards by Saturday Morning Cards, featuring art by Eric Marshall. You can find more information on these at thephantom.fan is the website. I noticed Pepe was lopsided. Whoa, honey, too much information. So you can pre-order these now. Also at SaturdayMorningCards.com. Orders fulfilled by July 2025. I went to the site and it looked like there was a lot of cool things there on SaturdayMorningCards.com. So if you're into cards, it looked like they had some other things too. You might want to go check it out. There could be some cool merch there. These are limited edition, apparently. I remember, see, this is something, again, I think is kind of generational because I was seeing a friend of the channel, good guy online I follow, Finn's the Spook, was looking at Looney Tunes cards, and you buy the box, you know, and of course it's a box with all, you know, the the little card packs in it. But I thought, yeah, like for Gen X, you had the bubblegum card concept. And so we had like Star Wars cards and, you know, but Indiana Jones, there's probably $6 Million Man. I mean, they did a lot of these things, but for our generation, and this is maybe also partly a matter of how much money we had to spend, right? Gen X is growing up mostly in the 70s and then in the early 80s, where the economy was still a little bit rough. The economy in the US starts taking off 83 or so and getting a lot better, right? Really high inflation during the 70s, that kind of thing. So like we're at a grocery store, we're begging mom and dad for like a friggin' nickel to throw in a gumball machine to get a chiclet. You know, if you could actually get a pack of bubblegum cards or a pack of like, you know, a Big League Chew or a toy from the friggin' aisle or a comic book or a magazine, like, dude, it's like second Christmas. You were pretty actually happy if you got that chiclet out of mom and dad. I think millennials, when they were growing up, the economy was significantly better, and mom and dad weren't as averse to that. I know with me and my wife, with my daughter, you know, we like rolling through a Walgreens or something, and there's like a cute little stuffed animal that's like $5 or $10. We're like, what the hell? You know, no big deal. Now, maybe some of that's because we're like, oh, I remember what we had to go through. But, you know, my wife and I weren't making like massive amounts of money when my daughter was little. But it was, in relative terms, more affordable, you know, to get something. So I think millennials, maybe, they took cards to like a new level. I mean, Pokemon, of course, good example of that. But at any rate, so I think maybe, you know, I'm not as like into cards as younger people are, but I thought these were kind of cool. And I do remember getting I got a bunch of those D&D cards when I was still playing like second edition. I still got some of those somewhere around here. I got rid of a ton, but I think there's still some. I can't remember where they are. And I remember getting a lot of the Star Wars cards they released in the 90s. They were pretty cool. But even then, I felt weird with like, well, you just buy the whole box. And I'm like, that's so decadent. Can't buy the whole box. You just buy a pack and you hope for the best. Anyway, so Phantom Crafter cards. Super 7 announces new G.I. Joe reaction figures. These are the O-ring construction. You got Falcon, Jinx, Cobra Law, Royal Guard. So it looks like these are coming from that G.I. Joe movie primarily. I reviewed the O-ring Zartan, Cold Slither Zartan, on the channel a few weeks ago, and I liked it. You can go watch the video. Definitely a little different from the original figures. I show it off with one of the, I think it's the Atomic Mike from White Elephant Toys, from their line of, was it Alpha something? Strike Force Alpha. And I show one of the original Snake Eyes that I have, just to look at the construction. You know, these are in some ways a little better. The plastic's a little bit different, but they're pretty darn good. And they display really well, in my opinion, at least, with the normal old-fashioned G.I. Joes, if that's what you got. So you might want to check these out. I believe it's a $20 price point. I didn't look. They might have, I don't know if they bumped it. If they bump prices for all the tariff stuff, which seems like that's mostly settled down at the moment. But you might want to check that out. This I thought was kind of cool. From Kino Lorber. I think it's from Kino Colt, but it's like Kino Lorber. Coming August 16th of this year, Frankenstein's Bloody Terror from 1965. Yeah, Kino Colt number 35. So 35 in their series of Colt films. So this is a 3D movie, meticulously restored by the 3D Film Archive, and is presented in both the stereoscopic, which requires a 3D player and monitor for that, and anaglyph versions. So they include a pair of the red-green glasses. So that's kind of cool. 3D movie you can get and watch in the comfort of your own home. And with a name like Frankenstein's Bloody Terror, probably good for the family, good for the kids. I can't imagine anything wrong with that. I've honestly, I've never seen that one, but they primarily are going for the B movies, the cult classics, which if it was closer, I'd reach over. Reminds me of the kind of stuff we would see in Film Facts back in the 90s that you could order on VHS. From Ripaverse, they got a new campaign going for Norfrika Glorious Death #1. So Norfrika is like this metal band. They introduced them in ISOM #1. And they got a lot of attention from people who wanted to see more of it. So Eric July's written a book with art by Ronaldson Frere. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. Colored by Marcos Martins. 64 pages, estimated fulfillment, fourth quarter of 2025. So we're talking October, November, December. And they've been very good with their fulfillment, so I imagine it will actually fulfill. We have cover A from by Kanan White and Marcos Martins for $24. We got cover B by Gabriel Iacano for $24. Cover C, this is foiled and embossed by Katerina Kalimniu, $35. And cover D, this is the mass print one that'll be available forever, by Yevgeny Sokolov and Jesse Hagee for $20. So that'll be the cheapest option of those. They've also, Eric July and Dan Vask recorded a single of Glorious Death that they've released. That is apparently doing very well on iTunes. It hit the top 10 of the metal in iTunes. Hit #1 in metal. Getting past Enter the Sandman, which is apparently the all-time champ, at least for the moment. And top 10 on the rock charts there on iTunes. I don't know if it's gone any higher anywhere else, but pretty cool. I listened to it. It was good. It's like later age metal that I'm, a little different from what I listened to back in the day, but I dug it. It was good. So that's kind of cool. And again, an awesome way to sort of promote the book with a single. And I think one of their milestones or stretch goals on it is, I think if they get if the book goes $300,000, or if the song, I think gets on the Billboard charts or something, they'll do an EP. So kind of cool, kind of fun. That's one of the things I like with Ripaverse. I know some people, there's drama and issues and stuff. And a lot of people think horrible things that I don't think are true, about, Ripa comics, but, they do seem to be injecting fun into the space of just this would be cool. Let's do this. Will it work? Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't work. Who knows? But they're trying new things out. Just seems like they're having a good time. And that's really what it's all about. Oh, which brings me up. Oh, no, I'll do that in a minute. I forgot I was going to talk about that earlier and then forgot about it. We'll do that in a minute. We'll finish out with these other new products. Red Dwarf getting a Blu-ray box set, all the episodes restored, which somebody was going, yeah, but Red Dwarf's supposed to kind of look a little crappy. But I'm going, no. If they're restoring the old Red Dwarfs, you're going to see just how crappy it looks, because I know that with the super restored, original Star Treks, there's scenes where you go oh wow, yeah, those control panels are made out of wood. You can kind of tell because it's so clear, which is why I'm not that into it. But you'll be able to see just how cheap the old sets were on Red Dwarf. But apparently you're getting the full Monty, man. Release date October 25. You can find it at Zavi.com. Now you want to go to the US. If you're in the US, you want to go to the US version of that. $108 for the box set, which if I'm honest, I enjoy Red Dwarf. Although the later seasons didn't do much for me, honestly, but not $108 worth of Red Dwarf. That ain't for me. But I wonder how much I spent though getting Are You Being Served? I don't think it was that much, but at any rate, that was on DVD too. It wasn't super restored, but yeah, for the Red Dwarf fans out there, Red Dwarf is pretty awesome. You might want to check into that box set that's coming out October 2025. And since we started with The Phantom, hey, Anton, how's it going, man? Red Dwarf, one of the funniest comedies ever made. It ranks up there with the wonders of Doctor Who. It really does, especially too because like it's that low budget. I mean, Doctor Who, not New Who, but Old Who, was always a little bit on the lower budget side from the BBC. I mean, you know, the UK is, I mean, it's a big country, but it's a smaller market than, say, the United States. And that's why British TV was always trying to get on in the United States if they could, because it just opens up the market. Now, instead of like, I mean, it would have been different back then, but like instead of, I don't know, like 100 million people, you got like an additional 300 million people that you could broadcast. So now you got 400 million in your audience, which gives you bigger budgets to play with. So The Saint, The Avengers at one point, you know, with Emma Peel, were in the US. You know, it's good for him. Jerry Anderson was always aiming for that American audience. That's why you got an American, you know, Commander on Space 1999 and stuff. So, you know, Red Dwarf, Doctor Who didn't really get that American release. So there's smaller budgets, you know, and I agree. I think it gives it a lot of character and forces, you know, since the writers can't do anything, they got to be more creative with what they do and how they write it. You find that on Dark Shadows, same kind of thing. You find it, honestly, well, in an opposite way on a lot of modern day movies with CGI. Anything you can imagine, you can now put on the screen. And I think one of the things we've learned is a lot of the writers working nowadays, they really can't imagine that much. What they imagine is what they saw in the last movie that had CGI. But it's like, it's, you know, the restraints on special effects in the original Star Wars trilogy, I think made for better movies than the no restraint on effects that you got in much later years. Got a lot of silly stuff, but yeah, PBS, exactly, man. Well, and PBS is where I just discovered Britcoms, and we're in our house. We're watching Are You Being Served for probably the 100th time. It's become like one of my favorite old comedies, and I didn't even know it existed until, God, I was like in high school, I think. Here's the funny thing. I think the reason I caught it on PBS the first time, and I didn't stick with it yet, but I'd get into it a little later. But the reason was the original Iraq War, Kuwait, the Gulf War, whatever you want to call it, was like the first televised war in a way. I mean, you know, Vietnam, there was nightly updates, but this was like live on TV. And so going to a tangent, but I don't know. I'm thinking I was like 18 or so. And I have family in Florida and family back in Iowa. And my family typically, like one year in summer, we'd go visit everybody in Iowa, and the next year we'd go visit everybody in Florida. In fact, the reason I first ever went to Disney World was one of those trips. So I had to be like, God, well, let's see, what year was that? Was it 90 or 91? At any rate, I was supposed to fly to Florida, but I was flying by myself for the first time because I think my mom was still finishing up. She's a kindergarten teacher, so she was still finishing up school. So I was going to fly ahead of them, and then like a couple days later, they were going to fly in, my mom and my sister. And I can still remember it was like the last day of school. I want to say a buddy and me went to the movies and saw, God, I don't remember what it was, but some big movie that was out that year. Went home. I'm like watching the coverage of the war, and I was up all night basically. But at some point they like broke, and I think they had the Britcoms on or something. And I was like, dude, oh, thanks for the t-shirt. Yeah, my wife got me that one. That's Star Wars. the comic books. But so I remember like watching Are You Being Served and being like, what the hell is this? And it was an early thing of like the 70s kind of like coming back to me, you know, who grew up then and being like, oh my God, that looks so 70s. That's crazy. But then in later years, many years after, when my wife and I were just first married, we had a condo and we had the same kind of money troubles that all young couples do. And so we got rid of like our cable or satellite, whatever we had. And I just had like network TV. And there's the Britcoms on PBS on Saturdays, I think it was. And my wife would be at work. And that's when I got way into it. And I just became a huge fan of that thing. I know that's a total tangent, but what the hell? What are we doing here if we're not talking about life and whatever? But the Phantom. So a new Phantom comic book series. And again, you can find more at thephantom.fan. Coming from Mad Cave Studios. You can pre-order it at their website. Written by Ray Fox. Drawn by Russell Mark Olson. These are 32-page comics. There was an issue 0 that was released for Free Comic Book Day, which I'm now going, did I get that? I don't think I got that. Why didn't I get that? That was dumb. But they're going to release September 2025 officially. $5. So, I mean, your basic comic book price. And I was going to show cover B is drawn by Kanan White. So we talked about his work on the Rippaverse stuff. He works for Rippa doing, I think he's like the creative director. I really dig the cover C by Russell Mark Olson. It, to me, has that feel of old school Phantom. So I might get that one. And then cover D is Dan Brereton. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, if you're a Phantom fan, you got cards, you got new comics coming out. Who knows what? Maybe we'll get a re-release of the Billy Zane movie, another one I've never really watched. Oh, I see Anton there. Well, I discovered Doctor Who watching it on Channel 9. It was part of PBS. You ever heard of it? Had Benny Hill, Monty Python's Flying Circus, and then Doctor Who. Oh, that's cool. Benny Hill. We got Benny Hill out here in Vegas on our like non-affiliated station, Channel 5. And all I remember, and this was when I was like probably 10 to 12, but definitely already interested in girls at that point. Or maybe I should say women. But all I remember is me and my friends were convinced that if we could watch a full episode of Benny Hill, there would be nudity. We knew there was going to be, because look, mainly because my mom didn't want me watching it. So I figured, oh, if I'm not allowed to watch this, because that was kind of, if there's a movie and I want to watch them, no, you're not going to watch it. It usually meant there was nudity or sex or something in it. So my assumption was, and I mean, with Benny Hill, the kind of jokes they're doing was, oh my God, there's nudity. It's like on normal TV. There's nudity. I got it. And so we'd be like, mom's busy doing something and oh, Benny Hill. You'd be watching it like, his mom, you get a little bit what do you do? Turn that off. Oh man. And I'm sure that's when all the nudity was going to happen. Gen X, like you just didn't have all this dirty stuff out there, which was probably for the best, to be honest with you, because a lot of that does seem as though it's warped people, frankly. But, when you were like getting into that, pubescent phase especially as a guy, like, dude, I mean, it was a nonstop search to see nudity on TV or magazine. I'm not proud of it, but it was just, you're curious as a kid. World at War, one of the, yeah. You know what I loved, Anton, was, because I remember this was on, here in Vegas, was on, again, Channel 5, on Sundays, was Victory at Sea. I was a World War II freak when I was a kid. The first comic books that I really ever bought were like GI Combat and like our Army. No, it wasn't our Army at War. It was one of the other, like a Charlton version. Sergeant Rock, stuff like that. way before I was into superheroes. It was military stuff, reading encyclopedias about World War II, plastic army men. I had soldier stuff. We used to play giant wars in the neighborhood. Kids on one side of the street versus kids on the other side of the street. We had our plastic machine guns. You know, I shot you. You have to lay down for like, I think a minute, or you have to count something. You didn't know you missed me. No, I totally shot you. It was all that nonsense. And so Victory at Sea was like, dude, that was so awesome. World at War, I definitely remember the video store I worked at had all of the World at War, like the whole series. Yeah. And I think I've seen all those, but I could be wrong. That's one to look for. Yeah, I mean, Benny Hill, but like if you watch the old Benny Hills, it wasn't like, it was all suggestive, but at least the stuff that was being shown in the US that I ever saw, there was never actually just like bare boobs or something like that. It never went that far, but we were convinced that it would. I mean, hell, I was half convinced that there was probably something like that, like on Love Boat and Three's Company, because I didn't get to stay up late enough to watch those things. And I definitely remember, like, I was convinced that Love Boat and Three's Company had to be the greatest shows that were ever made because they were on after I had to go to bed when I was a kid. And then I'd be like homesick or something, and it's like, oh, Three's Company, oh my God. And I'd, watch them. I'm like going, yeah, that was okay. Love Boat. Oh, it's like romances between like old people. I don't even know who any of these people are. I mean, I love Doc and Gopher and all that, and Isaac, but it's sort of like as a kid, you're going, oh, Love Boat's really kind of a letdown. So now as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, this episode has Ernest Borgnine, Blair from Facts of Life, Chachi. Oh my God, look at all the people on this thing. I like it better now, but we'll throw Love Boat on once in a while. Okay, before I do any movie reviews, I got a weird batch. Thought I'd show off some pickups from the local comic shop this yesterday, actually. So I saw on Twitter somebody posted, they got the new Fantastic Four facsimile, which is the second part of the Galactus story. They'd released the other one a week or two ago. And Adventure Comics, the intro of Crypto. Again, I don't really care about the Superman movie coming out in particular, but because of the Fantastic Four and Superman movie, we're getting some cool facsimiles. So you notice this is in a poly bag. And the reason, this is what I forgot to bring up earlier. The reason, wow, check it out. I'm Uncle Harry. I will send you prizes like these. Okay, Uncle Harry. Not really my uncle. Anyways, the reason the poly bag is there is some kind of a contest. So you could win a 6-month subscription to DC Direct. I'm assuming that's like online comics. And apparently that has kind of cheesed off some of the comic book shops because they're like, hey, DC, we'd very much like to sell people these comics. Now, I don't think the whole digital comic thing is the threat to comic book shops that some people think it is. But I'm also not a comic shop owner, so, I could be completely wrong about that. But I saw somebody talking about this online, and I thought, in fact, I think it was Finn's the Spook, and was it Thirsties? Thirsties? I can't remember the exact name of the channel. Good channels to follow. Well, are they channels on, I don't know, accounts, whatever. So I remember thinking, you win a prize that I don't care about, so I'll probably end up winning. So let's find out. I've opened the poly bag. Let's find out live. I don't know what I'm supposed to find in here. Is it like a golden ticket or something? To see if I won. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's on the first page. The Golden Biscuit Sweepstakes. Oh, no. I'm sort of wrong here. Win the opportunity to attend the world premiere of director James Gunn's Superman taking place in Los Angeles. Oh, yeah, because that's what I want to go do. Although it would be fun to go and talk to James Gunn and say, what the hell is wrong with you? But, sorry, I didn't win. I'm not that sorry I didn't win. But use code BISCUIT at dcuniverseinfinite.com/join/biscuit for a 30-day free trial to DC Universe Infinite's monthly Ultra tier. Auto renewal and other terms apply. God, I mean, give me a break, but whatever. Point is, though, hey, it's Superboy, it's Crypto. I'm down with that. And we got, I think, Green Arrow. Yeah, we got the Green Arrow in this dude. Yeah, people forget too that a lot of DC characters sort of stop being published in the 50s, and then you get the early 50s, and then late 50s you get the return with the Silver Age Flash, Green Lantern, etc. But Superman published all the way through, Batman published all the way through, Green Arrow published all the way through. He didn't go away either, and Martian Manhunter actually pops up in there too. So I think Martian Manhunter's first appearance is pre-Silver Age. So either he's the first Silver Age character or Martian Manhunter is a Golden Age DC character. Any rate, so what else did I get? I found a bunch of Who's Who, which I've been trying. I had all these once and I got rid of them. Dumb. I'm recollecting them. So I found a bunch in the dollar bin at the local comic shop and picked those up very happily, and also a few from the Update 87. I decided there's only 5 of those, and I actually have them all now. But I figured that's as far as I'll go. I'm not going to keep getting the updates. I loved these things. I'm such a nerd, and I was playing the the DC and Marvel role-playing games. Well, even if I wasn't playing them, I was looking at, that's Todd McFarlane. That's Todd McFarlane art on this one. Yep, there's the name. Right there at the bottom. I gotta be honest with you. When Todd McFarlane first showed up, I was like, me and a buddy, we were so into McFarlane. And then later on, I'm going, I'm not that into Todd McFarlane anymore. I don't think he's that good. Maybe he got better on Spawn and stuff like that. My wife asked who James Gunn was. He's this little-known director working on Superman. He's tried to stay very behind the scenes. He doesn't want his name associated that much because he really wants it to be about the art. God, I know. So sick of hearing about James Gunn. So I picked up this facsimile because I couldn't remember if I'd already had it or had the issue, but I love the photo covers. And so I finally looked. I'm like, oh no, I don't have that one yet. So I grabbed that one for the photo cover. There's the Fantastic Four facsimile that came out this week. If This Be Doomsday. So this is Origin Silver Surfer. Boys, men, my secret new Dynaflex method. That's from Mike Marvel. I posted one of those online. I also caught up on a couple of the damn X-Men facsimiles with the Phoenix storyline, which I didn't realize, it came out a while ago. And I don't have 134. And I was looking around, I'm like, oh crap. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find that easily. So here's where I got to call my wife out, though. I go to the comic shop innocently looking for a couple facsimile issues, because I don't want to overspend. I don't want to have too many comic books, restraint. She starts digging through the back issues on the table there, starts pulling out a bunch of stuff. And I was like, honey, we don't want to spend all that money on comic books. Come on, we got to be responsible. She starts crying, making a scene. And I was like, okay, I'll buy the comic books. Whatever, just don't freak out. But telling you, she's a bad influence on me when I go to a comic book shop. And obviously I'm joking, but I will be honest though. When she's not with me at a comic shop, I will often show more restraint because I'm like going, oh God, she's going to kill me if I grab the, okay, put these back. Don't get those. But when she's there encouraging me, then it's like, I actually did she can tell you in the comments, I actually did put a bunch of stuff back that was cool, but I was like, no. We don't want to go crazy. But they had a bunch of Invincible Iron Mans and a bunch of Justice Leagues, which are two of the things I dig and collect. And they were like in the $1 to $3 range. So I'm like, I'm doing it. Well, you'd think there's no such thing as too many comic books, Anton. The pile of boxes full of them I have in my closet, though, right now, would maybe disagree with you. She always finds the best stuff there, too, at that comic shop. I always go to if I go to the one side, so they got they got a bunch of back issues. In front of them, they have a couple tables set up on these two different tables. There's like a aisle between them. And one of them has stuff that's more in that $1 to $3 range. And then the other one is like just the dollar bin. I mean, so the other side is really more like more than $1, but there's a few dollar books that show up in there. If I go to that table, she goes over to the other side and finds a bunch of crap that I want. And if I go to the cheaper side, she goes over here and finds a bunch of stuff that I want. I'm like going, it's like I picked the wrong side every time. But yeah, I'm right now trying to figure out where I'm going to put a lot of this stuff. And we got Iron Man and a little more Iron Man. Oh, and I also did get, because this is a series I'm into, but I only got a couple of them. Champions. I have a thing for the series that didn't really last. I don't know what it is about me. I like the underdog. It's also fun because you can collect the full series and it's only like 15 books. I think there are 15 issues of that one. And then we got Justice League of America. Some good stuff here. Yeah, I can't pass up that kind of, especially too if it's like old Marvel. Oh, I'm gonna keep collecting them. I just don't know where the hell I'm gonna put them. That's the problem. Well, I keep saying, if my daughter ever moves out, then I can turn her whole room into storage of crap, and then, oh my Lord, the floodgates will open. Watch out, honey. My wife better keep our daughter at home, because who knows what nonsense I will bring into this house. And a couple more. I know, I really did not intend to get this much stuff, though. I mean, my main plan is like, I grab a couple facsimiles, because that's what I kind of am into. And then I'll check, one place I'll check the 50-cent bin. The other one I'll check the dollar bin. If there's a real particular issue I'm looking for, I might go looking for it. But by and large, all right, if I find some cheap comics that are like in series that I collect, I'll grab those. So I don't know if I even would have looked over on that table. I'd passed it. I went over to the other one. That's where I found the Who's Who's. Yeah, pretty good prices. And that's what I was saying. If you find vintage Marvel comics that are like $1 or less, they tend not to be. The Marvel stuff tends to go just for a little bit more. I typically in the 50-cent bin, I find 90% DC, 95% DC. Actually, if I'm honest, probably 99% DC. And then very rarely it's like, oh, it's an old Iron Man or an old Wolverine, and I'll snag it. But the Marvel stuff, it's in more demand than DC is. I just like to read comic books, so to an extent, I don't care. And it's nice too that I keep saying this 50-cent bin, dollar bin. One of the beautiful things about it is you find a series and you go, I was always a little interested, but grab it, man. It's 50 cents. What's the big deal? If it sucks, it sucks. You donate it. You give it away. Find a kid and say, here, have a comic book, whatever. But, okay. Oh yeah, little movie reviews. We'll do a few of them. Where have we been at? Oh yeah, we're a little over an hour, but what the hell? I watched a couple movies this week. Not as many as usual though. This I watched yesterday. This is actually a TV. Well, it's a TV pilot that didn't get picked up. It was turned into a movie in the UK. A lot of it was filmed there, so there's a lot of British actors. So this is Spectre from 1977. Gene Roddenberry pilot, one of many that he didn't get through. It's not bad. It got real weird at the end. There was some nudity, speaking of, and which surprised me. But apparently this is the copy that got turned into a movie in the UK, and they added that later. Because I'm like going, it's a TV pilot, so of course, you know. But it was about like a weird demonic sex cult. So basically, Robert Culp plays William Sebastian. He is a criminologist who, and this is backstory stuff that they don't cover as much, but he's a criminologist. He worked with this doctor who's like a medical doctor, played by Gig Young. And this criminologist, studying some of like the serial killers, starts to believe there's a connection. And maybe it's an occult connection. Maybe these serial killers were actually possessed. So he kind of quits being a criminologist for a while and starts studying the occult. Okay. And they give the two characters a sort of a Holmes-Watson thing. So here's the negatives. Culp kind of overdoes it. I think that hurt it. There's a couple places where he acts like himself that are better. But sometimes it feels like he's trying to do a Sherlock Holmesy character the way he talks. And I don't think it helped. Gig Young, this is 77. Gig Young's alcoholism is sadly evident. The first scene that he's in, he's rather good. As it goes, you can tell he's slurring lines and he's not quite there. And the fact is, the next year is when he killed his wife and then himself. He was having real problems. It's sad. He was a good actor. In fact, he was originally intended for the part that Gene Wilder played in Blazing Saddles, and he turned it down because he knew with his alcoholism he couldn't do it. And he barely was able to do this. And it's sad because when they were on, they were both pretty good. Culp just a little over. But you also get, Majel Barrett, of course, is in it. But John Hurt, Gordon Jackson from The Professionals, that's another thing I did a review of. Who I loved him in Professionals. He's in it. Speaking of Are You Being Served, Penny Irving is in it, playing one of the women at this this sort of brothel cult place, and also Vicky Michelle, who's in Allo Allo. That's another series we've been rewatching. Which, by the way, if you've never watched Allo Allo, it's pretty damn funny, pretty good. So they're in it too. So there's a lot of familiar faces if you watch British TV, which I think is why it got the release in the UK as a movie. But yeah, it's one of those where you go, man, there's a lot of potential here. But I can kind of see why it didn't make it. And I think Culp overacting it a little bit and Gig Young obviously being a little off, I think probably hurt it. If he wasn't struggling with alcoholism, Culp had kind of grounded it a little bit more, I could have seen this thing getting picked up. It's occult investigations, going after demons and stuff. Could have been very cool. I watched another one of the Carry On films, Carry On Doctor from 1967. Wasn't as funny as the other two I've watched, but there are some funny scenes in it. This has sort of become my, when I'm trying to depressurize after I do a live stream, because when you're doing something like this live, you're kind of, even recording a video, you're sort of like, you're just a little more alert. And so you get done, and I tell my wife this, I'm like, I'm done with the stream, and I still feel like I'm on camera talking to people. So there's still like a sort of a nervous, like, okay, make sure you hit your mark. So afterwards, I try to watch something funny to just sort of come down. So Carry On Doctor, I watched. Not bad, but it wasn't one of my favorite ones. Now, the other comedy I watched, Zorro, the Gay Blade. Okay. This is from 81. I remember this one really well from when I was a kid. I never watched it, but I remembered it existing. It's George Hamilton playing himself and his twin brother. The one being, the actual Zorro, the twin brother being, he's gay, and he's changed his name to Bunny Wigglesworth, and he has to sort of come in and pose as Zorro, right? So we're just flipping around on YouTube, and this pops up, and my wife's like, "Oh God, I remember watching that," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've never watched it." I'm like, "What the hell? I'll just throw it on." I figure I didn't think it was going to probably be that funny, because I recently watched Hamilton in Love at First Bite, where he plays Dracula, and I didn't like it that much. And I'm like, I'll throw on 5 or 10 minutes of it. What the hell? It's actually pretty damn funny. I got to say, there's some really funny lines in this. And Hamilton, the Love at First Bite, it's like the timing's off and the jokes don't quite land. The timing's good in this one. You also have, who else? Lauren Hutton is playing like the love interest. The dude playing Stefan, he's over the top, but pretty funny. There's some good stuff. If you've never watched this one, you might want to. It was a lot funnier than I expected it to be. I also just finished, this is a TV series, but I'll throw this out there. I don't know if I'm going to do a full review or not. Man with a Camera started in 1958. I think 3 seasons. Charles Bronson. Pretty good, actually. He plays a photographer who gets involved in all these different things, sometimes being brought in by the police. And I guess he was like a captain in the U.S. Army during World War II, is the idea. Or maybe it was Korea. Yeah, because it's 58. He's not that old. But at any rate, it's good. And the thing I got from it, though, was it's Bronson. Like, it's 58. It's early in his career. And this is Bronson. It's the same delivery you're going to see in, like, the Death Wish movies. And you go, Bronson had a real authenticity to him. He didn't, like, act. He was who he was. And a couple times in this, you see him doing some boxing, and you're going, Charles Bronson was friggin' ripped back then. Holy crap. I mean, I just reviewed last week, what was it, Hard Times, where he's playing a boxer. And that's like, 20 years later. But like, you're going, dude, man, this dude was like, he was the real deal. This is a guy who could kick your ass for sure back in the day. So Man with a Camera, you can find it on Tubi. I think you can even find it on YouTube. You might want to check a few out. It's a pretty decent little, like, adventure series. All right. So this is the last thing that I watched this last week. And with the name like An Angel for Satan, it's a romantic comedy, right? This is 1966, Italian Gothic horror. It was the last Italian Gothic film that Barbara Steele did. And she's pretty good in it. But dang, is it bleak. There's a little twist at the end of the movie. But I got to be honest with you, I'll probably never watch this thing again. It's horror, but it's not like horror. It's sort of like, it's this woman who sort of shows up and just kind of destroys everybody's lives. And I mean, some of them like really destroys their lives. It's sad. There's some pathos in what these people go through. But not a bad movie. It's dubbed, of course. And I'm like going, is Barbara Steele dubbing her own dialogue or is it somebody else? It almost felt like somebody else. But still, from the physical acting was good in it. Weird little movie, but I did not love that one. I will say though, this was movie number 2,669 that I've watched. I do keep track. And, anyhow, An Angel for Satan. I saw it on YouTube where I think they called it The Devil's Bride. I don't know if that was actually another name it was released under. A lot of old movies back then were released under multiple names. But at any rate, there you have it. that is Dad's Den live today. Sorry, I keep moving around, but my back is killing me. Because I'm old and fat, to be honest with you. Not going to lie. Why lie? Thank you, Anton, for being in the chat. Thank you, my lovely wife, for moderating and always being there for me and convincing me to buy back issues of comic books that I, didn't technically need, but I sure as hell wanted. I cannot wait to read them. Hope everybody has a really awesome Sunday. If it's not going great, I hope it gets better. Keep the hope alive that things are going to get better. Work towards something better, and you just might get there. And if you're really having a lot of problems, I have heard that this is like Mental Health Month. If you're having real problems, reach out to somebody who can help you. Please do that. We need everybody. We need everybody. God loves everybody. We want you sticking around. Reach out there. Try to get some help if you need it. And if you're just a mildly kind of, dude, go outside, enjoy nature, watch something funny, right? Try to get yourself out of the funk. Go buy some old Archie comics or like an Archie digest at the grocery store and just sit and read goofy dad jokes all day. Something to get your mind off of problems. But I hope everybody has a really good Sunday. I will see you this week. Let's see, tomorrow, Justice League, Monday, issue 25, I think. Actually, I think I have it up. No, that's not. Let me see. What do we got coming out? We got Justice League number 25. We got on Wednesday, I'm doing a review of Modesty Blaze, the 1966 rather odd little film. And on Friday, I'm doing a little deep dive into the Moldvay basic D&D set. I did the Holmes basic D&D a little while ago, doing Moldvay this time. Kind of reading through, I don't mean like reading every single word, but reading through, talking about the rules, how it worked, talking about maybe why some of the rules are the way they are. Because if you're younger and you're playing like 5th edition, some of the rules in the old stuff doesn't seem to make sense. Trust me, it does if you understand the whys and the wherefores, where it all came from. So we're going to be going through all that stuff on Friday and then a live stream next Sunday. So hopefully I will see you in Dad's Den at some point this week. But until then, God bless everybody. Oh yeah, I should probably say, because it's standard, like if you enjoyed this, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That'd be cool. But God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. And I will hopefully see you soon. Like I said, in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.